On Inauguration Day, Kamala Harris embodied what girls and women across the country have long dreamed, a woman vice president. Hours later, however, President Biden signed an executive order that crushed girls' and women's rights. Using detailed, explicit language, he ordered that children be allowed access to the restroom, locker room, and sports team of their choosing. Their gender, now described as gender identity, would have no consequence.
It's turning equality upside down. The entire reason we have separate male and female locker rooms and sports teams is that people with male and female bodies should have a certain amount of privacy and safety and fairness in competition.
LGBTQ advocates say the order supports equality and ends discrimination against people who identify as transgender. But conservatives and some feminists have been crying foul using the hashtag Biden erased women. The Women's Liberation Front called the order a heartbreaking message to women and girls that their government does not view them as worthy of consideration and is not willing to recognize them as a discrete class. Federal agencies now have 100 days to determine how to implement this order. And for any business, faith-based organization or school receiving federal funding, opposing the order could be a costly decision. Gordon.
Well, Heather, tell us about the other implications when it comes to women's sports. What's at stake here?
Right. It's really an incredible situation that we're finding with women's sports. And it really could end women's sports as we have known them. If a boy who says he feels like he is a woman can enter women's sports. What we're also seeing conversation about is even if, say, a boy who identifies as a girl gets his testosterone suppressed, once he's past puberty, Gordon, he still has a very strong heart, lungs, fast twitch muscle fibers. He is still much more competitive than a girl. And so it really, the playing field will completely change if this is indeed allowed.
Well, talk about Title IX. I mean, that was put in place to create a level playing field for girls in high school and college sports and equal funding. What's this going to do for Title IX?
Right. That is the big legal question right now. That was a 1972 federal civil rights law, and it really opened the doors for girls and women in sports. Now what you have is President Biden is trying to build on a Supreme Court decision that came out last year called Bostock, and that said that when it comes to employment, you can't discriminate when it comes to gender identity. And so now he's trying to expand on that to other areas. So you really have a clash between protecting discrimination, sex discrimination, and gender identity discrimination. And we're seeing several court cases that are taking this on right now. There's also a law in Congress, or a bill in Congress. So this is something that is bubbling up and is really going to need to be decided in our country. And I think it will be in the years ahead.
I'm kind of wondering, I'll just wonder out loud, which is probably a bad idea, but if you're not quite good enough to make the varsity male team in your high school and you're looking to get a scholarship to a college, can't you just say, well, I'll compete on the women's team? Isn't it creating an incentive to do this?
You know, it could possibly be creating an incentive. And your question really calls into question, you know, what is the motive? Why would a boy want to compete on a girl's team? And what we do want to note here is that there are some young people who are truly, you know, in pain, really struggling with their gender identity. There are others who are also just finding themselves in emotional pain with mental health issues, and they're being encouraged by the adults in their lives, by the school professionals, by the medical professionals, to go on this road of changing their gender identity. And these professionals are also under the gun because if they hesitate in any way, if they question a child who's questioning their gender identity, they'll be labeled transphobic. So it's a real mess, Gordon.
All right. Well, you've been keeping an eye on professionals and pediatric medicine in particular. How is the transgender movement affecting it?
Well, I'll tell you, I got off the phone last week with a mom who runs a support group in a southern city for 15 families whose children identify as transgender. And their big concern right now is that the Biden administration will really open the doors in terms of paying for these medical interventions. They're concerned that insurance companies and other federal funding sources will just really open the doors for puberty blockers, hormone suppressants, and surgeries. So that is a big concern with what is going on right now in transgender medicine. And also, as I mentioned, there's this model of affirmative care, and that basically does not allow professionals to question a child, push back on them in any way. And yet, at the same time, we know that a lot of children who get confused about their gender identity later resolve it. So the concern is that there would be a medical intervention that would take place, and the child would later say that was not necessary. In fact, you mutilated my body, and what in the world? A lot of concerns about how we are handling children who come forward and say, I'm confused about my gender identity.
Well, we've got some questions from viewers. Ann on Facebook asks, does each state have the ability to decide not to adapt this into their school systems?
Right. And states can push back here. And in fact, I think I alluded to, Idaho has passed a law with respect to gender and sports. There's also a lawsuit in Connecticut right now. So states can push back, and I expect to see that happen in the wake of this order. States right now and local school districts are waiting to see how the Department of Education is going to actually implement this order and what it's going to say specifically when it comes to bathrooms, when it comes to sports teams.
All right, well, we've got another one from Facebook. Amanda asks, can this executive order be contested? And also, is there a limit to how many executive orders President Biden can sign?
Right. So there is not a limit as far as I know or anyone else. And this has really become a new way of doing business in the Oval Office, or let's just say it's been expanded upon, these executive orders. At the same time, there are checks and balances, and Congress can decide, or the federal courts, they can strike down an order that they believe is outside of the president's scope of his authority, or Congress can pass another law that might contradict the president's executive order. But that's unlikely to happen right now, Gordon, because as we know, the Democrats control the Senate, the House, and the Oval Office. All
right. Well, Heather, thanks for the insights. Thanks for being with us. You can always get the latest on news from our CBN News Channel app. Encourage you to download it. It's available on all those different devices. You can watch a 24-hour news channel, or you can get the latest updates on your phone or tablet. Hello, I'm Gordon Robertson. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more encouraging videos like this one. Welcome to the 700 Club Interactive family, and God bless you.